Okay, guys, all good things come to an end. And this is the fourth and final episode of the automation trip. And got to be honest, it's emotional for me.
I thought you were about to say that we were going to break up there, but then you said it was the series that's coming to an end.
See, enough of us miss, like periodically, like Caleb's not here today. So it feels like you've got this in and out relationship that's always exciting.
You know what I'll say is it seems like the end, but honestly, I think the folks at home will figure out that it's kind of just the beginning, right?
Ooh, are we talking a sequel in the future? Someday, everything we're talking about will be obsolete old news, and we'll be recording about how silly it is to work like lean stream. I don't think so. I think this is pretty solid. So, you guys ready? Should I dive in?
Should we do a quick little recap of where we left off?
I think that's a good point, Dave.
Yeah.
So, why don't you recap us? Like, where were we since it was your idea? Let's see if you even read this. Pay attention.
It's a nice test.
Rookie mistake.
If I'm not mistaken, in the previous episode, we went through a value stream mapping process. We identified where the bottleneck was in Gary's operation, which was a quality bottleneck.
Mm-hmm.
And, they started going through a bit of a 5S process, getting things sorted and set in order and shine and standardize and sustain. And basically, this kind of started the rebirth of Iron Clunk Machining, which has a fancy new name, Foreshadowing.
Ooh.
Watch that in a second. And we're going to kind of learn about how that transformation, what that turned into.
Yes, exactly. And he's got a partner in Klaus. Klaus is not the enemy. So Klaus is now and has an equity position in Iron Clunk. He and Sarah, the quality girl that got away. We all have one. We all have a quality girl that got away. They're all kind of coming back and helping. Gary's right at the point where he's like, all right, I see a path to success here. Let's go. I'm ready to work.
You know what? As I kind of reread where we left off last session and then, reading ahead on today, what we're going to talk about today, it really kind of gets your blood pumping. I mean, we've hopefully all worked at companies where they start to figure things out and they put in these cool process improvements and you can kind of start seeing, what the finish line looks like. And it's always just crazy, exciting, fun time to work at a company. So I could really get into the characters this week.
I can see clearly now the rain is gone. My German accent that comes out Jamaican, hopefully that doesn't come back today. We'll see.
Right.
You know what? It's so funny. I was scrolling LinkedIn just before we started recording, and there was a guy who literally was just posting pictures of his journey of buying a shop that was just an absolute mess. He talked about getting it all organized, throwing out the junk, and it just was perfect timing to see that because that's exactly what's going on in this story as well. So Gary's coming out of the slump, and
so Gary.
Now we're gonna learn about that transformation. So let's get into it.
Episode 4: The Lean Legacy. So 12 months later, Iron Clunk Machining is no more. It's now reborn as Iron Will Manufacturing. It's a name Klaus and Gary chose to honor the grit that turned chaos into flow. The squat brick building gleams under fresh paint, its windows spotless, reflecting a shop humming with purpose. Gary stands at the helm, his flannel shirt crisp, eyes clear from a night full of restful sleep. Lean automation, built on Klaus's foundations, has unlocked a thriving culture. The team tracks 2 different OEE metrics. Overall equipment effectiveness, which is now hitting 85% with streamlined pallets and probes, and the innovative overall employee engagement, which measures ideas contributed and time spent on continuous improvement beyond the daily tasks. It elevates people above production, Gary says, glancing at a dashboard where Bill's latest Kaizen suggestion is becoming an update to the standard work. Automation, robotic loaders feeding high-mix pallets supports lean flow, not fights it, and it frees up minds for creativity. Wow.
Good stuff. One thing that jumps is in that very first kind of sentence where we talk about the name change from iron clunk to iron will, and you talk about grit. And it always just reminds me of something our president here, Noah, always says, which is, someone's got to do the work, right? So like, it's important, right, that even though we're talking about manufacturing ideology and systems and processes, right, people got to roll their sleeves up and make it happen. It's still very much people driven.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you heard that in the end of the last episode too. Like, it's not like Klaus just was born running an incredible lean company. Linda and Klaus's wife, Heidi, they were relating. Klaus used to be stressed.
Can I make an admission here that I'm not super proud of?
Please.
This is the first time I have personally read about overall employee effectiveness, and I honestly was speechless. I'm going to plagiarize it nonstop moving forward. We're going to redo the whole department up here. Like, it's how cool.
It is cool. Dave, have you heard of this?
To your point about, it's being a people-driven thing, like measuring that your team is on a daily basis making improvements to the operational process is huge. Where'd you get that idea from, Nick? Because I wonder if I know where you got that idea from.
Honestly, like a little bit from Paul.
Okay.
And then a little bit just kind of made up. So I'm thinking, and maybe somebody does something like this, but I feel like I kind of made it up. So OEE, overall equipment effectiveness. Okay. Like basically, are your machines living up to their potential? You have a certain amount of available machine time. How often are your machines actually running? You've got a target cycle time. How close are you to hitting that target? But then you need to like balance that out and counterbalance it with a quality metric so you're not just pushing crap through. And if you multiply those three, that's OEE. That's the OEE everybody knows about. But that tells you like if your machines are living up to their potential.
Mm-hmm.
And we all know that the real engine of any company is the people.
Totally.
So how do you know if people are living up to their potential? And so here's where Paul and ProShop were inspiring me a bit because and Dave, you used to work there, so you might be able to explain this a bit better than me, but like within the system, you can track how many hours you're spending on continuous improvement. And I think Paul's partner, Kelsey's the one who like built that into it. And I was like, that's incredible because the other OEE, overall employee engagement, like you can just make sure your machines are efficient, but how do you keep getting gains? How do you keep getting to the next level?
Sure.
If you're not opening and closing a door every 10 minutes and operating like the former chapters of the story, and you're working ahead of your machine, you're running maybe 2-3 machines at once, you have time because you've used the entire work holding envelope, you've extended the cycle time, you're getting more quality parts per cycle. Well, now, like, what do? You're just like, well, I'm really efficient. You just sit there and watch Netflix on your phone. No, you go and like figure out what's some sort of process improvement. What's some sort of product improvement? If you're a product manufacturer like us, maybe you're making a post and filming like what you're doing and promoting your company and creating some sort of content to tell your story. There's a million things you can do that we would consider continuous improvement. And so like, let's track how much of our team is contributing to that.
I was just going to point out, like, measuring it, not just doing it kind of willy-nilly, as the spirit moves you, but like actually tracking it and setting an expectation for it, even that, hey, you're, this percentage of your time, we want you to be booking your time against customer work, customer jobs. Mm-hmm. And we want to make sure we're still reserving a percentage of your time to put into these continuous improvement type tasks. And I think that's huge because without a system in place, without being very deliberate about making sure people have time to engage in that kind of work beyond just getting the customer work done, it often doesn't happen, right? So I think that can be so transformational. And definitely that's baked right into ProShop. I think what's cool about that is everyone who gets ProShop kind of gets confronted with that concept, that idea. And most people that I talked to when I was there that saw that for the first time, they're like, oh, interesting, right? It doesn't hit everyone as the obvious thing to do.
Yeah.
No, it's amazing. You hear tons of people from whether they're talking about cutting tools, work holding, automation, that you've heard the phrase working on the business, not at the business, right?
Mhm.
But to now have a metric that can run alongside that, that's pretty amazing.
Like, we're in sales and business development, so we don't really get to set these things in the shop, but I've got a good connection to our president who's a lean guy, and I'm going to be like, dude, Noah, I got this idea.
And I'm glad that this wasn't like I thought that this version of OEE was like from some strategizer book that I haven't read yet or something. But no, it's from Paul and a little mind of the Golner. Then I don't feel so bad anymore that I didn't know about it.
Yeah, you don't know everything.
Yeah.
This is manufacturing. Everyone has to pretend they know everything. So like, but Dave, you're like, okay, making it a metric. So if OEE is availability times performance times quality, and you get, 3 percentages multiplied by each other, which makes them smaller. And then, this is good math here from Nick. Okay, like that's a number you can improve. So what's the overall employee engagement? It's, okay, availability is your total hours worked divided by your total scheduled hours. Like, do people show up on time? How often are they like sick or not there? The best ability is availability. So that's the first one. And then performance, in the context of what we're talking about here, is the percentage of worked hours spent on continuous improvement, which can't be 100. Like, you got to make parts. You can't just come in and have ideas to make things better, but you also don't want it to be like 2%. You want to make sure, like, if you're doing everything we've talked about here, you're staying ahead of your machine, and that frees up time for creative problem solving. And then quality. Okay, so like, how do I know if that time is quality time? What percentage of these ideas, or kind of like you've submitted a bill for a continuous improvement initiative, what percentage of those turn into like updated standards that you can implement and adopt as part of like your new standard where the bar has been raised at your company? So that's my OEE metric for connecting the employee to the equipment.
Great stuff.
All right, let's get into the second little scene here. Bill and Bob, once skeptics, now lead the charge. Under their guidance, Iron Will passed AS 9100 aerospace quality certification and ITAR compliance for defense work. Their standard work, their ERP with integrated quality management, and their 5S philosophy is ensuring audit perfection, and they're not scrambling to prepare for it. They're bolstered by their new certifications, and they're no longer chasing low-margin scraps from shrewd tech. Gary raises prices, and he selects customers who align with Iron Will's values. That's precision, innovation, and long-term partnership. The shop's crown jewel is a massive contract from Space Corps Enterprises for rocket components. And this was won through a customer tour where they highlighted lights out processes, which was 5-axis mills running almost 24/7 on automated pallets with 0-point clamping, seamlessly swapping multi-part fixtures, and in-process probes that catch defects in real time, making automating scrap a distant memory. Lean first, automate second, Bob chuckles, loading a fixture at the loading station in his Hennig workflow automation system. Employee engagement soars with time dedicated to continuous improvement. Standards are often improved and updated per the new OEE metric, fostering ownership and unlocking creativity that drives profitability in what has become a genuinely joyful workplace.
Love the Hennig workflow name drop there.
Yeah, what is
I mean,
that?
like,
I'm excited for that.
When you make incredible
new.
things, the ads are just organic, okay? Like Paul gets all sorts of love for all his great ideas. Why can't we have one?
Yeah.
Product placement.
Yeah, exactly.
Scene 2 brought to you by.
This is what we talk about all the time on Making Chips, where manufacturers are trying to get out of the low margin crumbs, and they're trying to get into high margin contracts that are often in regulated industries. So shout out to ProShop, shout out to people who operate this way. You can operate this way without ProShop, but their system is like literally built so that if you follow it, you're inherently compliant. When it comes time for an audit, you don't have to change anything because you're already compliant. There's a zero prep audit. And I've been in places and our history as a business in former times, like my dad would be like, we got an ISO audit. What do we got to do? You know?
Everybody grab a broom.
Everybody down. And so, you know, I remember that as a kid, like he'd come home, oh, we got an ISO audit. He found a major, he found a minor, whatever it was. And I love this idea of like kind of the final two S's and 5S, standardize and sustain. And then you're compliant and they can like do a snap audit, surprise, I'm here, and you're going to be good. So
don't even lose sleep.
Yeah.
One of my favorite parts from that little segment of this story is just like, you know, in one paragraph, you use this stream of language that's like automation, pallets, 0 point, right? And then in the stream above it is like lean and lights out. And it's just, I love the symmetry between all that language from not just like the conceptual part of it, right? Lean manufacturing, lights out manufacturing, things like that. But then it actually is like, here's the tactical technology that brings you to that point. You know, it's not like just this cloud. It's like you can literally go get these things today.
Yeah, if you do it with the right mindset, if you have the right why, because that's what Gary did in the first couple chapters. Is he's like, I saw a robot over there, and that guy's got a great shop. I'll buy one. So, good point.
And what this scene kind of points out too is there's been a bit of a shift in the whole business model, right? From like, you know, a dirty shop full of vertical machining centers with dinosaur devices on them, chasing after low margin work, to, hey, we've changed the way we operate, we've changed the way we think, we've integrated new technology, and we found the higher margin work that fits well with all of that and allows us to operate in this way very profitably. And so that's quite a big pivot.
Yeah, I think the other major pivot is like the last sentence. What has now become a genuinely joyful workplace. Like when you're all participating in creative problem solving, it's joyful. It's fun.
Well, and creative, you have the bandwidth for creative problem solving because you're not chasing your tail, fighting fires all day long, just trying to get ahead. As all that, you know, all that frustration and chaos kind of builds up.
Yeah, 100%. All right, scene 3. Gary's leadership team thrives without constant oversight. Bill heads operations. His daily stand-ups are a hub for problem solving and innovative ideas. And Bob oversees quality, building it into every function of the business. Sarah, now Iron Will's director of quality and continuous improvement, integrates machine monitoring with ERP data for real-time KPIs that are actually connected to the business results that drive Iron Will's premium valuation. Gary can check his phone from anywhere. The system telling the true story. Flows optimized, waste is minimized, people are empowered, and issues are addressed instantly at the root cause. He can see exactly what's happening at the shop, but he doesn't have to because he has complete faith in his team. At home, Linda packs for their anniversary, a dream vacation to Door County, Wisconsin. Cherry orchards, lakeside sunsets, and no shop worries. The ERP keeps watch, Gary says, kissing her. And the team, they're self-starters now. As they drive north, Linda dreams aloud of a vacation property there. If we keep this up, Gary nods, we can do it. His marriage is as revitalized as his shop. I was laughing when I read this, like, babe, the ERP keeps watch.
What every woman wants to hear.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, Gary.
What do you get the woman who has everything? Pro Shop ERP. No.
So good. Oh, that's so good. Yeah, not a lot to say here after that.
I mean, I quickly Googled Door County, Wisconsin, and my goodness, is it beautiful. Everyone's got to Google that and just bask in how wonderful it looks.
You could also just come here and I can take you there.
That's another
We'll bring
option.
our wives too. Let's make that clear. You know,
we could talk about ERP.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, so like one actual business point here, and then we want to get to Door County again. Well, and we can all dream about it together. But Bob oversees quality, building it into every function of the business. Like quality is not a separate silo. It's built into everything that you do. And it starts at sales. I mean, if you're listening to the Machine Shop MBA series that we're doing on making chips, you're listening to the quality management system episodes, and you're hearing about what, like, I think is a bad idea is to have like a separate quality department that's elsewhere, disjointed from what you do. At Hennig, we have Josh Green, an incredible guy who is the director of quality and continuous improvement. Same title I gave Sarah, because like continuous improvement and quality are completely intertwined, and it's intertwined in every function of the business. So yeah, to have like a department that's kind of like its own building over there that like gets a wheelbarrow full of parts, and then they have to figure out like what was right and what wasn't right. We go back to earlier into the story. That's what they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
And now you see it's kind of like built into everybody's job. Bob, one of the veteran machinists, is overseeing it. And then Sarah is thinking from like a high level, like, okay, how are we getting the right data out of the machine monitoring system, connecting it to the ERP for a true MES, and, connecting the dots to like what's happening in the shop and ultimately a business result. That's the exciting part. Okay, back to Door County. So
Great segue.
Eric, why don't you tell everybody how that got into the story?
So we have a tool we use, something that came to me from a coach by the name of Ray Green, and it's an exercise we do called Vision Founder Fit, where essentially, you're working with your team to try to identify, things that give them energy, things that drain their energy, right? Things that make them feel alive, but then ultimately too, getting some 1 year, 3 year, and 5 year goals on paper, right? Like, what's the vision? Why are we doing this, right? It's not just about a paycheck for most people. For most people, they're looking for more freedom, more autonomy, a different scenario for their family. So anyway, if you look at my Vision Founder Fit, you will find on there a home in Door County for my family, like a second home, if you will. We go up there right now. We have a condo we rent up there a few times a year, and we absolutely love it. As you saw in the pictures, Dave, it's pretty cool. So
yeah,
that's how that got in there. And Nick was gracious enough to include it in this story. So thank you, sir.
You are my Gary.
I'm the Gary to your Klaus.
It's more like the other way around, but
the Gary to your Linda.
No, you're the smart one. I'm trying to.
Oh, sorry.
Don't make me Linda. All right. You've crossed the line. All right. So instead of just sitting here looking at images of Door County, let's move on to the next scene.
It's probably a good thing.
On Door County's serene shores, Gary and Linda toast under its sunset, the lake lapping gently. We've earned this, Linda says, her hand in his. Gary's phone buzzes with an ERP alert. OEE is steady at 85%. And Bob just submitted an idea that we implemented remotely. The shop never stops, but I can, he smiles. They wander cherry farms and hike bluffs, envisioning a cozy cabin here funded by Iron Will's surging profits. And then Linda says, Gary, if you touch that phone again, that'll be the last thing you touch for this entire trip.
That was what I removed.
I do not care about your ERP system. Stop talking about it.
Gary sure knows. Now that he's got the shop running right, he could really use like some how to talk to women advice. Right?
Yeah. I was honestly just winding up to make a comment like, if you follow this process like Gary did, you on your phone during a romantic getaway with your wife.
You too we'll be checking your ERP from exactly
from your romantic anniversary vacation. Okay, back to the story. Sarah, Bill, and Bob have it covered. Gary assures her lean automation has freed us all. Again, Linda tells Gary how little she cares about lean automation. Gary smiles cluelessly and thanks her for her honesty. Back home, the team's engagement metric climbs as they tackle Space Corps' demands, ideas flowing like never before. Gary gets it. Success isn't just machines operating effectively. It's people thriving, creativity unleashed, and culture transformed.
I love it.
Yeah.
We laugh at those, they're on vacation, they're enjoying themselves, and it's easy to laugh at that. But in reality, like, that's the sort of stress relief I truly believe comes with like owning these process improvements and these systems, right?
Mhm.
Like literally summing it up in the not having to like, oh my gosh, an audit, right? Like just there's a level of calm that does come with this.
Yeah. It's not, oh my gosh, an audit, or I've heard, how many times have you heard like, yeah, I go on vacation and then I get punished for it.
Reaction, nonstop.
Mhm.
But, I just heard Mike recently talking about all these updates. He sent all these pictures when he was on his trip. I think he was in like Wyoming. He was in Jackson or something like that. And he sent all these photos of like all these updates that his team was making when he was gone, because they were like so excited to show him like, we got this. And he was so freaking proud. He's like, honestly, it choked me up a little bit. And that's what we all want, whether you're the guy running the shop while your boss is away, and when he gets back, he's going to be like, wow, great job, dude. Or you're the one who's trying to get away and truly disconnect. Like, that's a company you want to work for.
Agree.
Thank you for your agreement, friends. You should have disagreed. Like, no, I think it's way more.
That's a load of crap. What are
You
you?
should have went David Goggins and just been like, it's got to be hard. It's got to be miserable.
Everybody should be bald and have hypertension in their 40s,
All right, we'll move on here. So the story circles back with the local manufacturing association's tour of Iron Will, profiling the shop in Modern Machine Shop as a top shop turnaround. Klaus joins Gary as a guide, striding like conductors through the symphony of purrs and whirs. Visitors gawk at elite yet practical automation. Flexible robotic loaders zipping between CNC mills, loading dense pallets with zero-point clamping for multi-part cycles. In-process inspection, probes ensuring zero defects mid-run, integrated tool cribs and material management systems feeding 24/7 lights-out production. Lean first, value stream mapping has mapped our flow, 5S and employee innovation has built our culture, and then automation amplified it. That's what Gary explains to the crowd during the tour. Klaus highlights the dual OEEs, equipment at world-class levels and employee engagement tracking continuous improvement contributions. This fosters a culture where ideas drive improvement. Bill demos a loader adjustment from his latest suggestion, and Sarah shares a paperless QMS update in the ERP. The tour ends with awe. Iron Will's legacy of lean automation proving processes serve people, and it's not the other way around. All right. So this all started with Gary attending a tour at Lean Stream where Klaus was looking sharp. And now look, full circle. People are actually touring his shop. He's a top shop turnaround, which I don't know if that's a thing, but it is now because I made it up, just like my new OEE metric. And there's probably someone in the crowd who's jealous of Gary. And this could get even weirder. We never know.
It's probably like different for absolutely everyone depending on the shop. But what do you think would be like a realistic timeline? Like, let's say you bought a shop today that was kind of an iron clunk in its original state. If you were working towards this goal, how long would that take?
Gosh, that's obviously like a super loaded question, but
yeah,
I think I'll be real. Like, I think the hardest part would be the people part. Because let's say you were this team and you acquired a shop and it was just your job to completely fix it. Like, you can be like, all right, we're going to value stream map this. We're going to set it up so it's super like paralleled to how we're already running an elite company. But then like getting the right people in the right seat to work there, I think would be like the longest part.
Yeah.
And since you said organic placement, this is why hiremfgleaders.com is so legit. I have to shamelessly plug it because like we used to be in this state where we would be like, well, we know that what we have isn't working, but we just don't have a person for this role. Mm-hmm. And then we were like, they just don't exist. They're not out there. It's a needle in a haystack. Everyone who's great is employed. Well, yeah, so that's what headhunters do. That's what recruiters do. They go and find those people and see if they're not like totally satisfied. Earl's working somewhere because hiremfgleaders.com had a message in his inbox when he was miserable about the old iron clunk,
Well, and that's relevant to this story, right? Because director of quality, Sarah, was kind of one of the keys to turning things around.
Exactly. And she didn't even take the job. She came there through this weird, partnership acquisition thing. But initially, she chose a company that looked like Leanstream instead of a company that looked like Iron Clunk. But she was torn between the two of them. And so to answer your question, Dave, in a really roundabout way, I mean, we have this one business at Hennig that's doubled in size for 7 years in a row. The easy part, not that it's easy, but the easy part is building expansions, filling it with equipment, all that kind of stuff. Because we're basically just replicating what we have in the other facilities. The hard part is people, getting new people in, getting them to adopt our MO, our culture, and getting them to, be that next engine for the next facility.
But I would say, right, that even a journey of 1,000,000 miles starts with a single step forward, right? So there are a lot of things that a lot of balls you can put in play that don't require extra staff, new equipment, hefty investment, right? I mean, we talk about this all the time, right? Process reliability, how does that start? Anybody can start, installing the 5 S's in their facility. Most people can afford to start transitioning work holding and things like that, right?
Yes.
I think the worst thing you could do maybe in this situation is try to look at it on a very linear timeline, right? When does the day come when we've caught lightning in a bottle and now we're iron will? Just start moving,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a really good point because probably the most impactful things they didn't really cost any money.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't cost money to learn how to map the flow of a facility and spend some time studying. I guess it costs time, but spend some time studying lean principles and looking.
So many resources.
Yeah, looking introspectively and be how far away are we from what I just read?
Yep.
Usually it's a massive chasm, so start to close it one step at a time.
You do a lot of damage early with a library card,
Heck yeah, man. I love that. Is that in Proverbs?
It is actually.
Oh yeah, good. It was in my morning Bible devotional. All right, the final scene here. As the visitors depart, Gary stands with Klaus, watching the shop pulse with energy. We did it, Gary says, his voice full of energy, and Klaus claps. You did it. With your new mindset, automation isn't a trap, it's freedom. And I have to admit, I stole your overall employee engagement metric at Leanstream. Ironwheel thrives. Selective defense contracts fueling their growth. Gary heads home to Linda, dreaming of Door County escapes and a legacy for their children. The lights dim and Gary sleeps soundly, but the shop never stops. In manufacturing's tough world, Ironwheel stands tall, proof that lean principles paired with smart automation and engaged people breed not just efficiency, but empowered lives, fruitful careers, and unbreakable culture. The automation trap shattered. Boom.
Mic drop.
Very
Mic
nice.
drop. That's it. That's the story, man. Now let's make it real in about 1,000 shops all over the country.
Yeah, I mean, we've all been in shops that have made those transformations, and it truly is amazing to watch it happen.
And you don't have to be acquired or buy a company to do it. Like you were saying, Eric, a lot of these things are free. You can start now. You can study the principles in this narrative and start to implement them. But if you are shopping, if you want to build your business through an acquisition, there's a lot of sense in acquiring an iron clunk and turning it into an iron will because you're going to get it for a great price. And if you think you can turn it around and you feel like there's enough there to work with, it might be easier than just greenfielding your own project.
Yeah. If you go through this process, take some pictures beforehand,
Yeah.
And after pictures would be pretty cool to watch. In fact, you'd probably be surprised if you reviewed those on a quarterly basis as you're making progress, what that does to kind of, fuel your momentum.
Yeah.
That's great, Dave.
So for the future of the Lights Out podcast, we probably aren't going to write narratives and have story time. But I thought that was like a fun way to kind of like humanize and make like a big anecdote for what we see happening all over the place. I want to get into like breaking this down, exactly kind of how to implement certain things. I want to bring in our automation physician, Caleb Mertz, to really get us into the anatomy of some of these systems and exactly how they work and why they work the way they do, and how to, like decide, are we going to do robotic machine tending with a, part loading cobot, or are we going to do some sort of pallet automation, and how and why do we decide those things? When does a custom automation solution make sense? It's crazy what's possible. I know this is more of a technology podcast than anything, but you can't disconnect the technology from the people. And excited to keep this rolling with you guys.
Yeah, I mean, to like what you just said, I mean, that happened in the story, right? We just talked about that a few minutes ago, where they try to separate the automation from the people and from the overall outcome, and then you end up with just the robot.
Exactly. Our next episode, we have an awesome guest. I'm super excited to bring on Yuto Matsuura, the fourth generation from the famous Matsuura family, who makes some of the most incredible machines on this planet.
You might have heard of it.
Yeah, you may have heard of the Matsuura name. He is doing some things that are, I think, unique to his generation. He's putting himself out there. I see him on like LinkedIn, in English. I can't speak a lick of Japanese, but he's out there to, putting his face out there, telling his story. And, the one thing about Matsuura, it's synonymous with automating machine shops. Like, they make incredible machines, but they're really known for like lights out operation and automation. Eric, tell everyone what our friend in Switzerland shared about that Matsuura that he's got.
Are you referring to that it basically, because labor cost is so high in Switzerland, I mean, literally trying to get as much runtime as you can without human interaction is vital if you're going to remain competitive. And so they run that Matsuura basically almost 24/7, and they run one shift.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, the guy's name is Beat, the owner, and I was like, Beat, so like, how long has that machine been running lights out? And he's like, well, we run, I think, completely 6 days a week, and that's been like the past 15 years. I'm like, man, what about like crashes or anything like that? He's like, no, we've never had to replace the spindle.
Yeah.
Like, we've never crashed it. So yeah, a lot of, so shout out to him. He was so hospitable to you and I, Eric. Like, we had such a great time over there, but a lot of the Klaus in this story is really inspired by that guy, who's taught me a lot about how to run an elite shop. So
that's awesome. Yeah, he also made a great comment about the automation that he gets, and the reason he chooses like those pallet pools the way he does, because square footage, which I guess it wouldn't be square footage in Switzerland. So square meters are very, very expensive also. And so really finding systems like that use space intelligently. Like, I'm so pumped to talk to Yuto. I think that's going to be just an amazing experience. Seems like someone who's got a lot to share.
Yeah, it's exciting. So we'll see you guys next time. It's now time to turn the lights out on the automation trap and this episode. You want to clap twice for me, Eric?
To Gary and Linda.
Love it.